Hello, this is Sean Gaylord with another segment for Vinyl Riffs. And I cannot be more excited about today, November 21st, 2025. This is Anthology Day. This is Beatles Anthology Day. And this is also the anniversary. 30 years ago today, I was 25 years old. I was living in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and I remember waiting in line at midnight at a Borders. Remember Borders Books and Records? Remember that place? And it was at White Flint Mall in Rockville, Maryland, and I was waiting for the release, the midnight release of Beatles Anthology 1 on CD. And I remember it just being a great event. There was a Beatles cover band there. They had all kinds of giveaways, and I remember just waiting in line with all these other Beatle aficionados, and it was great, kind of standing in line going, all right, I'm not the only nerd. I'm not the only geek around here that loves and cherishes this band. So today, landing literally on my doorstep is the newly refurbished Beatles Anthology Collection, which I have right here. And I will tell you, I think it's roughly about 12 pounds. So I'm glad that I got my workout in. And this is the package. And I know many of you who are following hashtag Anthology 2025 or the Beatles, you've seen all kinds of fans unveiling, unboxing, unleashing this just gem of a box set. And I thought that I would throw my hat in the ring in the Beatles arena to share with you my initial impressions of this just treasure trove of goodness. I mean, it's a treasure trove of fabness, and I just have to tell you, this is amazing. So you've got the official picture here of the anthology, which you see here, and on the back are all kinds of. There's the track listing and some quick liner notes regarding the remastering by Giles Martin, and then the release of Anthology 4. So you slip this puppy off, and you have the now iconic graphic album cover by Klaus Vormann. You remember Klaus, friend of the Beatles from Hamburg, Germany during their days there. And he also designed the Revolver album cover and won a Grammy for it. And Klaus is just one of the coolest cats there is. And it was great when this was released in '95 that he designed the cover for the Beatles anthology. So you've got that there, and then you open it up, and you have the Anthology 1, which is just great to hear on vinyl, the warm crackling sound of the needle and all of the unreleased tracks, and also some of the audio verite of different interviews that are on here. Also, Brian Epstein, their manager, and him, they took recordings from his audio book version, early audio book of A Cellar Full of Noise. Ghost written by Derek Taylor. Derek Taylor, the late great Derek Taylor, who was their press agent during the Beatlemania era, or part of the Beatlemania era, wrote some of just very eloquent liner notes. But look at that photo, those photos from Hard Day's Night there. Just a beautifully wrought design package. Now, I love one of the things I love about albums is just how you get into the world of an album, right? The universe of an album. And I like to read every little nugget and looking for Easter eggs or inside jokes or any kind of arcane ephemera trivia, right? So you've just got all of these great liner notes on each track, which I remember from the CD package. Again, I know it's a little blurry here. Um, and all of these liner notes written in 95 by Mark Lewison, who wrote a whole lot about the Beatles. From the Beatles recording sessions book, which came out in '89. Wrote all kinds of things. Wrote the liner notes for Paul's solo album Flaming Pie. Wrote the first volume of a purported three-volume massive biography of the Beatles all those years. Volume one being Tune In. Hey, Mark, waiting for the other two volumes, and keep up the great work there. But just great liner notes from him. And then you've got, of course, each album with the Apple label there, side one and side two. And then of course we dig deeper. So this is early Beatlemania. It includes all of their earliest known recordings when they were the Quarrymen, and that's here as well. And unreleased takes, live things, and just a great historic oeuvre of the early years of the Beatles. And Volume Two is here, and of course you open it up. Beautiful trifold. There's the Sgt. Pepper era there, and this is where we enter into the studio years of the Beatles, the experimentation at Abbey Road, heralded by things like Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane and the Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band album, and just some really cool things here. Now, oh my gosh, before I forget, each of the first two volumes of the Beatles Anthology series, when it was first released in '95 and now reissued, kicks off with the Beatle reunion song. So, of course, Anthology 1 has Free as a Bird, and then Volume 2 has Real Love. And if you all know, both those songs were demos recorded by John Lennon, and Paul, George, and Ringo reunited in the studio in the mid 90s to finish out those records, or finish out those demos, and to really make them into amazing tracks. So you've got those here on Volume 1 and Volume 2 respectively. Volume 3 does not start off with a Beatles reunion track, and I remember when it came out in '96, I was really bummed about that, because there was all this talk of a third reunion song, and there was all this kind of speculation of what it was going to be. And we later learned that it was going to be Now and Then, which is on Anthology 4. But again, Volume 3 here. And this is where we get into the final phase, of the Beatles. And this is where we have some of the demos from the White Album, those acoustic demos that they recorded at George's house after their trip to India. And then also the sessions officially, I remember, being released from the Get Back sessions. So it was kind of cool to hear on this release, when it came out in '96, the unadorned tracks of Let It Be and Long and Winding Road, before Phil Spector added his wall of sound for the Let It Be studio album. So again, just a great package. Liner notes. There's a picture there from the last photo session of all four Beatles, and there it is there. So just some great things. And then the new album, so to speak, a new release included in the package. You can also get it separately as well, and this is the Anthology 4, which has more unreleased tracks, all in chronological order, starting off with take 2 of I Saw Her Standing There, and going through a chronological order, and then some of these things, if you're a diehard fan like me, have been released on some of the super deluxe editions of the albums that have come out, from the Sgt. Pepper Super Deluxe edition, the Beatles White Album, and Let It Be, and then it closes, and again, I just love the continuity and bringing things full circle with the three reunion songs, and all three of these songs, or the two of them, "Free as a Bird" and "Real Love," these are the 2025 mixes, and there's been some talk about, well, maybe they shouldn't have done this, and what have you. But hey, you decide. You've got the 95 mixes on volumes one and volume two of "Free as a Bird" and "Real Love," respectively, and then you've got the 2025 mixes, which Jeff Lynne refurbished, so to speak, and using some of that MAL, that AI technology, to isolate John's vocals. And then, of course, it closes with "Now and Then," purported to be the last Beatles song. This was the song that Paul George and Ringo had started work on, another of John Lennon's demos, and it just didn't click. It didn't happen. And then it was finished by Paul and Ringo with assistance from Giles Martin, and it came out a couple of years ago. So it's great to kind of have those three songs together on vinyl. So I am excited to listen to all of these records in sequence. This is my Friday night. I am a geek. I am a nerd. I am a proud Beatles geek. I am a proud Beatles nerd. And then, of course, I've got my copy of the 25th anniversary of the Beatles Anthology book. So I will be thumbing through that, looking at the liner notes of these records, and just savoring the idea that a Beatles release happened today. And again, this doesn't happen too often, y'all. How often can we say in 2025 that, hey, have you heard the new Beatles release? Like they did back in the '60s, or some of the reissues that came along in the '70s and '80s and '90s. So I'm glad, as a second generation fan, technically first generation fan, because I was born on May 8th, 1970, which was the very day and the very year that the Let It Be album came out. So, you know, I'll claim first generation status, even though I was a wee newborn infant. But anyway, I am excited, and I'm very grateful for the Beatles and their camp and their production team for putting out this release. This will all kind of serve as a great overture for the re-release of the Beatles Anthology series, the 9-part series, which will be coming out on Disney Plus next week. And I am very excited about that, just as I was excited 30 years ago watching the original Beatles Anthology series on ABC TV. So many things for us in Beatle people world to devour and to savor and to analyze, and really, at the end of the day, just bloody enjoy. And I intend on enjoying this vinyl experience and enjoying listening to all of the tracks and little nuggets that I have grown to just love and adore over the years, for who I consider to be just simply the greatest band to ever walk the face of the earth, the Beatles. So thank you very much. This is Sean Gaylord with Vinyl Riffs. Remember to keep spinning, to keep grooving, and most importantly, to keep believing. Thanks for tuning in.